4.3, chain mnemonics. So memory chains. This is the next level. This is the first most rudimentary level of visual mnemonics. And basically how it works is, and we've been talking about this before, of okay, you're using your spatial memory to, and you're hijacking it or hacking it to learning this language so you can speak with it and store information in your spatial memory. Well, this is even an easier way because it eliminates the whole need to have some sort of environment like a room or a memory palace. What you do is you just connect each image to the next image and you just create a chain. The problem with this is that if you lose one of those chains, one of those links, everything after that one link is completely lost because that's the only thing that's connecting one image to the next. So it can really suck if you've got a whole chain of maybe 10, 20 things, and then chain number 7 breaks, and so everything from 7 to 20 is now gone, or from 8 to 20 is now gone. So it's very risky to do it because if you lose a single connection, you're going to lose everything afterwards. So you're taking a big risk. But when it's something where, especially as you get better, or it's something that you repeat a lot and get enough repetitions, or if it's just a small chunk of linear information, that's when it's best to use something like this. It's just a kind of convenient, very quick, very easy way to do something. It can be something where it's short term, kind of like writing down a note, like just into your phone or into like a little notebook, something that's meant for short term, just so you can memorize something just for the next maybe few minutes or the next hour, or until you can write it down. So it's good for one thing that it can be good for is a speech. So if you have something that you're going to present in a linear format, something that can work for that. And especially once you get enough repetitions on it, it's pretty easy to remember that chain, and you're not likely to forget it. And another way that you can practice these chains is just draw them out or write them out, write each word. So just write out a word or two that represents each one of those pictures, and then kind of connect them together with just a line, and create this sort of snake or whatever, and there you go. So that's memory chains. They're not it's not a good habit to get into using memory chains for everything, but it's one way to do it. And there's another way to make a memory chain a little bit more robust, which is instead of having one image linked to the next and then that to the next like a chain, what you do is kind of this fractal pattern, or best way to think about it is islands. So if you have a string of islands and then there's a few images connected to each one of those islands, then it's like, you imagine you have, let's say you want to have 25 images. So you take 5 or 30 images. So you take 5 images, you connect them to each other in a regular chain. So you've got a chain of 5 things, just like a regular memory chain. But then what you do is you add 5 images to each one of those. So you find 5 separate smaller parts of each one of those 5 big images, and you attach each one of those images to a small one. So you kind of just look at your hand in front of you, imagine the palm being that big image, and then it's got 5 parts, and each of those parts is an individual finger, and you're attaching an image to each one of those fingers. And then take your other hand, connect the 2 palms together, the inside of your palms. That's the connection of the 2 big images. So now you've got 10 images on your 10 fingers, and you have access to those as long as that chain of your 2 palms. So then imagine 5 palms all next to each other. That's your major chain, that's your main chain, and then off of each of those large images you've got 5 smaller ones. You've got 30 images total. And you don't always use those big palm images for actual information. Those can just be dummy images that you're using to store information, to attach things onto, so they don't have to mean anything or symbolize anything inherently. That's when you start getting more into how are you actually structuring information? What is the philosophy behind it? What is the underlying framework or system that you're using, and how are you representing that with images? So once you start to think about that, once you've drawn out your framework, then you can start to think, okay, how do I want to design my visual mnemonics so that they make sense and they match up with this framework. So we'll be talking more about that later in the coming videos.